Hey,
Welcome to the WNY report. Everything Western New
WNY.
York,
Yeah, baby. Look at your phone. Make
including
sure we're live.
including what's on television right now.
We're in the conference championships. Like, if we win this as the Buffalo Bills, yeah, go Bills! We will be in the playoffs the next round with the Ravens. This is a tough game starting out already, and it's stressing me out. So, and I have not medicated a bit, so I'm feeling like I should be sparking up, but that's not really proper on the LinkedIn. So we don't want to get us banned because I need to medicate.
Well, it says we're live, but I don't see us on LinkedIn yet.
Now, lovely.
Oh, wait, here it is live. Got it.
Live. Yeah, baby.
Happening now. Yeah,
We're
baby.
in. Hello,
Let me look.
friends.
So, Nikki, this game that's going on right now is very Western New York. Like,
It
you
is
can't get any more
all
Western New York than the Bills.
correct. Note, I've got my dots, but go Bills.
Go Bills.
And that's all we say. Like, literally, my husband and I went to the casino last night, and it was packed. It was more packed than I've seen our casino in so long. And we were at dinner, and like everybody's got Bills shirts on, and like all you hear is "Go Bills" as people are walking out. And it's just we have such a community of football humans that we all. I wouldn't be surprised if many of our people don't show up today and might be tuning in tomorrow because of being diehard Bills fans, and I respect that.
I respect that. I went to LSU, and the LSU Tiger spirit is just unbeatable. Like, you'll have people that had no connection to LSU, but the 4 years they were there, and they are lifelong LSU fans. They'll have the pennants, the shirts, the hats. Their kids will be in LSU onesies. And it's like, dude, you were there all of 4 years, and now here you are 30 years later with all of this stuff. Even the grandkids, they'll get stuff.
Well, my little grandson, he's got his little Zumbas. You know what Zumbas are? They're
Oh, yeah.
these. Okay, okay, cool. Well, if you're a Western New Yorker, you definitely know what those Zumbas are. And so he's got his own little, yay, it's halftime. Julie, I expect score updates from you as we go through because go Bills. I'm not watching, so it's kind of sad.
It's
I mean, it's
halftime.
not
Okay.
sad.
Hey, Julia. So, why don't we talk about, while it's halftime, what's happening in cannabis in Western New York?
Yes. There's so much happening, not only in Western New York, but naturally all across the state. I would like to give a shout out to the Cannabis Retailers Association that had a huge event in New York City. I believe it was yesterday, where they had 50 brands from across the state, and that was Jason Tantalo and Brittany Tantalo and their whole team of humans that everybody supports, including the new 40 Tons brand, which is a very social justice impacted brand that basically came from LA, and they have a partner now in New York. So they're doing cool things and bringing awareness to nobody deserves to be in jail for a plant. And as you know, this is something that I think we both are very passionate about, that, the prohibition on cannabis really had to stop, and has to stop. And no one deserves to be in jail for a plant. End of
No
story.
one, yeah, nobody. Um, and it gets complicated, but that is the basic essence of it. Have you talked to anybody who attended the event yesterday? I have to
I
say
just,
it was pretty darn cold. Like, the wind was really, really whipping around. I didn't show up.
oh, you didn't go?
Um,
Okay.
no, no. I didn't go. You know, it was just really, really cold, and I'm changing offices and blah blah blah, and so I didn't make it.
Well, if it was any closer, I of course would have been in full attendance, but anything in the city, it's so hard for me being an advocate that just is trying to support as many brands as I can and as many people as I can. It's really difficult if you don't get your air and hotel accommodations covered because at the end of the day, it costs money, friends. It costs money. And so just trying to keep it all, you know, in the reality check, kind of like our friends that some of them don't think we should pay our bills.
Well,
Like,
yeah, you saw me on LinkedIn this week. I was
yeah,
chiming in with somebody. I can't even remember who first posted that, but it was something to the effect of, if you owe 5 to 10,000 to a vendor, please pay it. And I would add to that ancillaries, the accountants, the lawyers, the marketing people, the um, even the even the guy that provided the hardware for your vapes, right?
yeah. Like, why aren't we paying bills as an industry? Like, I don't get it.
Well, I get it. I totally
Well,
get it.
I get it, but I don't get it because
Okay, so here's what happens. Do you want to know what
okay,
happens?
I do want to know what happens, Paula.
Well, let me tell you what
Enlighten me.
happens. And what? Enlighten you.
Enlighten me.
Bing. Um, So here's what happens. A business owner will plug into this magical thinking that if they can just do one other thing, then the magic is going to kick in and suddenly they'll be their profits, their daily revenues will bounce from 10,000 a day to $25,000 a day. And so they will, instead of paying you, the ancillary or the farmer or the marketing person, instead of paying that bill, they'll think, you know what? I'm going to not pay that bill and I'm going to put this money over here. And then I'm going to make a whole bunch of money and then pay everybody off. And we're all going to be rich then. And it's
Uh,
quite, I mean, talk about intoxicating to the point of impairment, right? Because ultimately it's going to come back and bite you. You're going to have brands that won't be able to do business with you. You're going to need something from that accountant or that lawyer, and they're going to be slow in responding, or they're going to say, you know what, I need you to pay this invoice before we can move forward, because we're all human. We all have grocery bills. We all have rent or mortgage. We all have transportation costs. You mentioned just the cost of being in the cannabis space, the cost of showing up at an event, the cost of, um, you know, in your case, and I'm very familiar now. I had to book a trip to Syracuse for later this month, and there aren't that many planes. So in my case, I have to stay an extra night because it was going to cut it too close. And so, did I really want to stay an extra night? No, I didn't. But I'm having to because I didn't want that stress of, um, I have to drive down from Watertown to get to Syracuse to get to the airport. So,
yeah,
yeah. So
ITD.
I get it. What happens when a dispensary owner in particular, who I think they have high upfront costs. They've had to
Naturally.
build out these spaces. They have to pay their people. It may be the first time ever that that person is having to pay payroll tax, and it is a scary thing. I did see something really interesting online today, and again, I forget who wrote it. So if somebody who's listening wrote this, please put it in the chat. But it was something to the effect of, you're trying to launch a $1 million business, a multi-million dollar business. If you've never run a business before, why don't you practice on something else? And that flies in the face of what OCM is doing, which is, oh, you've been legacy all your life. Now we're going to give you this license and we're going to educate you and support you to run this licensed business. Well, it's super hard. It's very, very hard. And from what we've seen thus far, the support is more in terms of we'll have a webinar or we'll have a series of webinars. And hi, Rochelle. Um, and I think that that goes, a certain amount of, it takes you a little bit down the road. But here's the problem: when you're making that switch from legacy to legal, that whole way of thinking where you're used to, I'll pay you next week. I got you. I got you. That flies. I wish, I never thought I would say this. Okay. True confession. I never thought I would say, I really do wish that we would take from the state liquor authority that model where day 31 that you're late with that invoice, you're going to go on a blacklist and you have to pay everybody COD, cash on demand. And I think it would do a lot of things. It would, first of all, that person that is sitting there at the desk and they've got X amount of dollars, but X number of creditors, and they're trying to not pay this one so they can pay that one, or not pay this group of invoices so that they can sink a little more money into marketing, or whatever it is they need to sink a little bit of money into. It's going to curb a lot of that decision making. The decision is obvious. If you owe somebody money, pay it. The other thing that it's going to do is it'll put everybody on a fair footing, because I'm aware that there are some people paying the brands that they really want to be in good with, or maybe that's their soulmate, or their, somebody they really, really like, but then somebody that came in the door and sold them on the product, they're going to be a little slow, or, any of a number of reasons. I also think that, um, the that 31 days would just make everybody a little more aware that I think of Jenny Argy. Jenny Argy says, take care of the supply chain. Whatever you do, take care of the supply chain, because without it, we don't have an industry. Now, what do you think of this rumor that New York is actually going to face a shortage of licensed cannabis within the next year?
Not being privy to how much each of these suppliers has, I mean, this is only my opinion, not fact, but I think as more stores open up, there's naturally going to be more of a demand. But I think part of this is some of the money. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not paying your bills, then there's going to be a glutton from certain suppliers, and then there's going to be a shortage from others because they just can't keep up with the demand, if you will. And I think that's a real reality that we have to take into consideration. Um, Different brands already have better placement on shelves. Like, look at some of the successful California brands that are now in New York that have partnered with processors or cultivators and have their products going on the shelves. People recognize those names. No favoritism here, but I think of like Rove. I think of like Aero brands. Like some of these are already well known brands that are now in the New York State market. So maybe they have more footing potentially than, say, House of Sachi, because that's a local brand and people don't necessarily know them yet, But that doesn't mean House of Sachi's products are any less quality than Rove brand products are. And so I think we need to take that into consideration, that some of those well-known brands are probably going to come off shelves a lot faster because there's no real marketing being done to these bud tenders or to these stores where they get that story behind the brand. And in my opinion, that story is so important because, like, let's take Jenny, perfect example. Everyone seems to know her in New York. And look at her. She's created a totally new, unique product, no sugar, vegan, uh, all those quality things that we strive for in products. But at the end of the day, her edible might not fly off the shelf like Curaleaf's edible flies off the shelf, not because it's any less quality, but Curaleaf has a much bigger footprint in the industry already in New York State because they're already a medical operator.
Hmm.
So they're going to be able to keep up with the demand a lot easier than, say, Jenny's, because she's a smaller craft brand that isn't maybe as well known potentially. So, as far as the shortage of the supply chain, I think there's going to be more shortage of the craft brands that finally get their mark in the market, but then they're not able to sustain it potentially because they're small, is my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I think all of that's valid. A couple of things to sort of key off of that. One is I think the smaller craft brands might have a certain amount of product that's ready to go, and then a certain amount of raw goods in reserve that they may not have processed.
Hmm.
And so we might, and further, because of this issue of payment or profit, they may not have people to process. I'm very aware of a farmer right now who's basically running the shop, running everything, and his truck's broken down. So he has orders that he can't deliver. Right. And it's a problem. It's a real
Yep.
problem. He's got to get enough money to repair his truck. Um,
And
other
he can't
thing,
get
and
paid if his products aren't on the shelf to
right.
get
Yeah,
sold.
and there are a whole lot of other issues there that I won't go into, but that might be another episode when we've sorted through it. But the other thing that I would not have known, except I was helping somebody set up their shop and set up their software for the first time, but the when you first on board with a certain processor, point of sale, that word processor gets used a lot in this industry, right? So right now I'm talking about the point of sale processor. When you first on board with a certain processor, there are brands that are preloaded. So like when a business owner is trying to set up so that the menu is there for everybody to see, there are certain brands that are preloaded.
Is
And
this
so
because they're a nationwide point of sale system or international point of sale system? Is that what that means? Or I'm
well,
trying
to
to
me
understand.
it comes across as a preference, because the business owner is going to think, yeah, I'll go with them. They're already in there. That's one less thing to do.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
So
Again, this is over. I have
So
not
that's
personally
that's why,
seen
I
that.
mean, we're starting to see it shake up. Actually, it started shaking up maybe 3 months ago. But initially, remember, there were the same 6 brands in every single store. Like you could walk into a New York shop and think, oh, this all you got? Because that unlicensed shop has a whole lot more, but you saw the same 6
Interesting.
over and over and over, and then it kind of expanded to 10, and then now there is actually quite a bit of variety. It's kind of fun. And what I would encourage our listeners to do is, if you went to a licensed shop in New York this week, go back in about 3 weeks and you'll see other stuff. You really will, don't you think? Isn't
I
that what
do.
you're experiencing?
It
Yeah.
is for sure.
You'll see
I
other
mean,
stuff, you'll see different stuff, you'll see the store, like, shaken up a bit. So it's kind of fun. I mean, that beats Target, right? Because Target, everything stays in the same place.
right, right. Now, I think there's also kind of a little bit of a problem with shops that have almost too many menu items. Like it's too hard to figure out what you want. For instance, I go into a dispensary that has over 400 SKUs compared to a dispensary that has like 100 SKUs. It's a lot easier to focus on what product to purchase or maybe what I've seen in the past so it resonates with me. When I'm overwhelmed with 400 different products, it's like I can't even process the menu fast enough. We were
Well,
talking earlier about ADA compliance, for instance, and we were talking about someone such as myself that has short-term memory issues. When that menu scrolls and it gives you 30 items, let's say, up above the cashier to give you a choice, it's only on there for like 3 seconds. I'm not 20 years old. And the font a lot of times is this big. And it's
Yeah.
usually like, let's hypothetically say it's white and then they've got like a gray background. You can't read it. So, you know, for people such as myself, new consumers, it's just, there's so many choices and there's so much that's overwhelming. You just waited in line for 45 minutes to get to that dispensary. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a
Uh,
better way for mobility challenged humans and for people that can really cater to the consumer,
yeah.
because not all of us are, high IQ and, perfect humans that don't have hearing deficits or sight deficits or mobility issues. I
Or how
mean,
about our older clientele that they can't even stand that long. Like my older friend up in Maine, she can't stand that long. She's not going to stand there at some kiosk trying to read something that's scrolling. It's just not going to happen.
well,
So
what about
this,
trying to do an iPad, Paula? Like, I mean, I hate QR codes personally. I hate them because they're just an extra step. And then I got to like try and look on my phone at menu items. And, I walked into an adult use slash medical dispensary and I literally got next to no attention. Like, oh, there's the order thing over there. You can sort the products by what you want. I'm like, I'm a medical patient. Really? That's as good as it gets. Um,
yep, Pam Shamil. I hope I'm spelling your or pronouncing your name correctly, Pam, but Pam seems to be agreeing with Nikki. And it points to that piece that you and I were talking about earlier today when we checked in, the bud tender education and have taking the time to, unfortunately what's required in New York State is that the bud tender gets educated on cash register protocols or the SOPs with regard to handling the product. But really, I gotta say, I gotta give a shout out down here. Oh, I'm sorry, Julie. Yes, hopefully that will change. I got to give a shout out to Union Square Travel Agency because their bud tenders will meet you at the door and will, like I got to put in a plug for my CBG because that is my medicine. And that I hit a bud tender who knew a lot about CBG and knew which products in their SKUs really would enhance that experience, enhance the benefit of CBG. So here was an interesting question that occurred this week. I was talking with a client who is a card licensee, and we were trying to plan, what is it going to cost you once this is opened? What do you need to make each day? What are the revenues each and every day that you need? And that is something that's coming as a complete shock to the new to the new shop owners, um, especially those coming from, like, I think the only way you would know that is if you had managed a dispensary before you owned a dispensary. I think that's the only way you would know this. But so they were, they said, "Yeah, come on, it's a small place. We're gonna have the guy at the door, and then we're gonna have the bud tender, and that's it. 2 people, very small place." And it's like, dude, I don't think you can legally do that because you've got to have the people in the back room because you can't. It's not like you can have the actual products out, right?
no, no,
And and so you don't want to leave the register to go to the back room, right? So
right?
you've got to have at least 3. And then even if it's a small shop, you want to have at least three places where people could check out.
Yeah.
Um, I think, what would you say is the minimum? The other thing is, do you want the security guard to be the one checking IDs? And I say no. Because if let's say I'm going through and I'm showing my card, and it's an Iowa driver's license, and so it takes the security guard time to look at the, to understand where's the date of birth on my Iowa driver's license. I just picked Iowa. But then in the meantime, 4 people go past them and get into the store.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So you got to have a security guard that's separate from the person checking IDs. And then you really do need that person helping the customers, saying, what are you looking for? Are you looking for anti-inflammatory? Are you looking to handle migraines? Are you looking
But
are
they
you looking
can't
to
say
just
anything.
enjoy the weekend?
But they can't say that,
Yeah, I
like,
know.
because it's medical advice, it's medical complaints, and that's where it gets really sticky and dicey.
But they can hear it and they can say, "Oh, I gotcha,"
I
and
mean,
direct you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just worry that, you know, we're crossing a fine line. Oh, hi, kitty. Hi, pretty kitty. I worry that we're crossing a fine line that, you know, they're adult use recreational stores. So when Mr. Jones comes in with a headache and says, I need something for my headache, you know, is that young something or, unexperienced bud tender going to be who takes care of them? And they offer him a, super high THC vape and he's never used cannabis before. So that's a concern. That's a real concern. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, Paula, because it's, the medical and the adult use line is so blurred now. I mean, people are using cannabis for medical purposes, whether they're going to a medical store or an adult use store. And that's a reality. Sure, you can't make claims. And I agree with the human that stated, was that Julie that said, or Marina said, they need sofas for seniors. I don't know about sofas, but chairs would be ideal. Like, let's have, a place for Mrs. Smith to sit down so she doesn't have to wait outside where there's no handicap parking, where she had to park down the block and she's had to wait in line like a cattle call to just access her products. I mean, there's got to be a better system.
And there again, like, I don't think we've had lines in New York, in the city, in a while.
Really? Well, every time a new dispensary opens up here, we get lines, and
Yeah.
they are long. um, and again,
Let's
it's like
check in
what
with the
time to go
chat.
in. Let's.
Look at all of what's happening in the chat. So Marina said they need sofas. Julie's my heart goes out to Julie. She's in the Adirondacks. Um, Hopefully we will get some dispensaries up to you. If I could, I would rent an RV and load it up with a bunch of stuff and drive up to the Adirondacks. But, I think the state of New York would have a thing or two to say to me on that
Yeah, they
one.
wouldn't be cool with that. Like the
Pam,
pop bus.
yeah. Pam, you raise an excellent question. How many stores do they need to break even? And I don't think they know.
Yeah. And I mean, what are your sales per day to break even? I mean, naturally, a lot of things go into that with how much you paying for rent, how much you paying for employees, how much you paying for, how many SKUs do you have? Each SKU costs the store money. And so, yes, and the end result could be sales, but at the same time, you have to get in good standing with that vendor. And I keep repeating that because I should not see you at a trade show with a $10,000 booth if you haven't paid $1,000 to the marketing person that helped you, develop your marketing plan. Like, it just shouldn't be, but it's
But we
happening
wanted
all
you
the
to do
time.
that for experience, Nikki.
What do you mean?
No, how they'll say, "Oh, come on, do this for the experience." And then,
Oh,
in a year, this industry is going to be $1 billion industry. Did you see that conversation batting around on LinkedIn? Because every time another state reports how much tax revenue they've had or how much product they've sold, I post population of wherever it is. I think Maine or Missouri, and then
Oh,
or
Missouri
Maryland
numbers are crazy.
and Maryland. Um, I and then I'll post the population of New York, which is 20 million. Um, and that's just like the people that are counted. Okay. And I'm not going to get into the whole immigration thing, but there are a lot of people in the state of New York that aren't included in that 20 million. I'm just going to say.
Right.
Um, so with all of those people, it should be a multi-billion dollar industry. I think somebody on LinkedIn said it should be, if you took the rate at which people are consuming in, say, Maryland, and multiplied that by the number of people that are in New York, we should be a $6 billion industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But the
we're
legacy
not.
market's flourishing off that. So, Paula, you brought up an interesting point earlier about the new hemp regs and, how some people are getting shut down because they have some of the products that aren't considered acceptable under this new reg.
Well,
Can you share some of that?
yeah, without disclosing too much, but basically, we had a very, very confusing landscape with hemp to begin with.
Hmm.
Um, because it's, a lot of hemp products came under the farm bill, the 2018
Hmm.
farm bill, and so they were federally legal. But then as we started seeing more things like the delta products, delta 8, delta 9, delta, New York made decisions, and a lot of other states made decisions about, oh, those psychoactive products we don't want.
Right.
And then you started seeing products that are hemp based, hemp derived THC, and the hemp derived THC products were around. They are around. They continue to be around. You can even go into gas stations and see hemp derived THC. But New York put the kibosh on that when its emergency regs without any warning, in July 27th, 2023. And I remember July 27th vividly because it happens to be my daughter's birthday. But so that's I just wanted to explain how I like really latched onto that date. And then that fell under an injunction because somebody sued and said, I think it was the beverage makers, right? They sued
Yeah.
and said, wait a second, we've invested a lot of money into this, and you've not given us a proper uh, warning. You've not opened this up for public comment. You've said that there is this public emergency, and there is no public emergency. This does not rise to the level of being a public emergency. And so a judge heard them and released that, uh, uh, gave them the injunction, said that the state could not enforce against this. But then what did the state do? They took those emergency regs and made them into the regs. And
Yeah.
so that was how they got around it. With this is our rule. We are OCM. We can make this rule. And so there was another set of regs that was approved December the 18th. And now I have a client that he hasn't been shut down, but it has really, really, I mean, his business has gone down to practically nothing because, of course, once they inspect and they find something that's inappropriate, they put up that big sign that says illicit cannabis has been found here. He wasn't selling cannabis, he was selling hemp. But and every single one of his products was legal before December 18th. And
Wow.
he does, this is not somebody who's new to the industry. He's very experienced, very knowledgeable about his products. He has COAs. He tests if any product is from out of state, which you can do with hemp. If any state is from, say, Colorado, but it shows up in New York, he gets it tested in Colorado and he gets it tested again in New York. I mean, he sent me stuff and I'm like, I can't even read all of this stuff. Not literally. I mean, it takes time to delve in to a
Yeah.
COA, especially when you're sending tons and tons of them. Um,
Paula, while we're talking about COAs, let's not forget MCR Labs has a free how to read your COA coming up on the
Ah, you're right.
24th.
That is
Uh,
soon. That will be
at
upon
4
us.
p.m. Yes, at 4 p.m. And that is going to really dive into that COA. And I would highly encourage anyone go on my LinkedIn page, go on Facebook, and there's a link you can click to just register and sign up. All you need is your email address and your name, and super simple. And they ask you, what are you, an industry provider, or are you a retailer, or do you just want education on COAs? Like, there's no obligation, there's nothing. And I really support MCR Labs because they're a lab that has been very established in the Massachusetts market as well as the Maine market. And they actually will test home grow products for home growers, whether they're a micro, or we don't have any officially yet, but I mean, they will go from just the guy growing his own medicine, such as myself, and we can send our medicine there to get a full COA, to test for pesticides, to test for heavy metals, residual solvents, and all those things. Pam, in answer to your question, strain based edibles for the medical market. Okay, let's just talk about that for less than 30 seconds. Um, Strain based edibles, at the end of the day, when you make a product, you're extracting the THC and all the components out of it, but you've now lost a lot of those characteristics of that physical strain. So you have to add those things back in it to be able to experience it. It's almost like it's misleading. Strain based edibles, at the end of the day, really don't mean a whole lot. Um, the effects are coming from the terpenes predominantly, in my opinion. And I believe that that's just sort of misleading marketing. Um, there's a lot to be said about that. And botanical terpenes versus cannabis derived terpenes, there's a whole other like episode we could do just on that. Um, but it's a thing. So it's misleading marketing in a lot of cases, just similar to the indica sativa hybrid BS. Um, it's really not accurate to sell on those points alone. It's all about terpenes and the chemical profile of the cultivar and chemovar. So just my opinion, just my take on it. But as a medical patient, COAs are everything to me. That's how I figure out what works and why for me. And that's how I've purchased my medicine since I learned about cannabis back in 2018. So technically it's 2017, but 2018, I really was able to dive in and understand things. Um,
Hmm. And then I see Stefan with hemp ice cream. I will be so pleased to taste hemp ice cream. I
I
really
love
will.
ice cream. And Florida is a very confusing medical market. Love Tribe Tokes. Shout out to Kim B and Deja. Those ladies have busted their butts to really create quality products and quality things. Um, but yeah, love that idea of hemp based ice cream. That's pretty awesome. Uh, it might be the future, Pam, but it's really kind of just BS because the only uh, products that are going to be edibles, they all have to start with either distillate or full whole plant extract. And so when we're talking about um, that
We're going to
strain
get
goes through
samples.
multiple process. I want samples.
We're going to
I
get
love
samples.
samples.
I'm pointing to the chat.
Oh, hi, Stephen. Yeah, baby. Get us some
Is it
samples.
Stephen or Stefan? I can't tell.
Oh,
Maybe
well,
it's Stefan.
but
You
see,
know, we need for them to be able to talk to us. We got to
I
figure that
know.
part out.
We
Wh-
do. We got to figure out a
Yeah,
lot of stuff with this tech
well,
stuff.
we got to figure out a lot of stuff. So the 24th is this see how to read a COA. What else is happening on the 24th, Nikki Lawley?
Paula, I believe on the 24th there's a big OCM meeting, and then the 26th is the lawsuit meeting, correct?
Well, that's called a hearing.
Oh. Obviously, I'm not lawyer speakable, but yeah. Oh, it
Yeah.
was Stefan, not Steven.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
good.
Thanks for that clarification, my friend. Um, because I have a PHEN that is Steven, so it confuses the hell out of me. So thanks for that clarification, Stefan. Um,
Um, so I think, and it's funny, I have a very dear colleague that thinks that this lawsuit is not going anywhere, that the state of Washington has shut them down and state of New York is going to shut them down and that they're not going to go anywhere. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm
I
wrong.
hope you're wrong because
I hope
another
I'm wrong too.
an injunction would paralyze us right now. An
An
injunction
injunction, I think
or a
emotionally it would
TRO,
be really, really, yeah, it would be really, really tough emotionally.
it would be devastating, especially to those people that have made the list. The list that I'm referring to is those that the OCM has chosen their lottery number that is now the number of how they're going to get a license. And Paula, you enlightened me with something earlier today that you don't hold a lot of faith in that list. And we talked about this a little bit last week, but we talked about how uh, the list is the list, but like for instance, you have
Oh, wow. Where'd you go? Did your power go out? I hope you come back. Um, so I'll carry it for now. So basically, there is this list that OCM. Oh, you're back. All
dude.
right.
Somebody called me and everything went like crazy. Whoa!
I
I
thought.
don't even
I
know how to
thought.
get that to stop.
Okay. Um, okay. So what I was saying was the list is a list that OCM has published that, or released, I guess, that indicates the order in which they will review your application.
Yes.
But honestly, has OCM implemented anything the way that they say they are implementing it?
Not so
No,
much. Not so
no,
much.
not a single thing has have they said, here's what we're going to do, and they've done it. And then they come back and say, here's what we did. Not a single thing. You can go back to card. Card did not come out the way that they said it would. Not a single bit of it. Not the application process, not, we learned more about the way that they viewed the applications for card when they went to the hearing for the injunction, and we learned a lot more about scoring.
A
The other thing
lawyer
about the
meeting.
list, a lawyer meeting, yeah, a little tea time with the judge. Um, then the so there's that. Oh,
We were talking
I
about the OCM list, and so
the
that
OCM
list
list, yeah,
has
that list, it's upset a whole lot of people. I mean,
whole
I
lot.
know people who had been very patient and people who had been saying, my time is coming. Um, my time will be here. Shut down all of these unlicensed shops because eventually OCM will open up the gates for everybody. So OCM opened up the gates. We were told that for you to get on the provisional list, right, you had to have control of a piece of property. Control meaning something that you've rented or something that you have purchased. And now we're finding out that there are a lot of people on that list that submitted an LOI, meaning a letter of intent. A letter of intent used to be acceptable, like for card, it was acceptable to put in your application. And really, there was a whole process for submitting your application with a letter of intent, and that was the non provisional. So that deadline was December. Oh, I'm losing track of the dates. What was it? Was it the 18th or something?
18th or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
17th, 18th. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are very upset about the list. I'm mildly annoyed with the list because it has upset a lot of people, but I cling to the fact that First of all, nothing that OCM has done has gone exactly the way they said it was going to go. So I think that there will be parsing of that list that we won't even be privy to because it'll be behind closed doors. Secondly, I'm aware of some people who made it onto the list who are kind of sitting back saying, maybe no,
I don't want to do
maybe,
this.
maybe you can pass me up and I'm going to sit back and see how it all goes down. And then I'll check you in a few years. Then
Then you have the
yes, so
micros. They're mixed
the
in with that
micros,
retail.
nobody's ever launched a micro business in New York. So Marina, you're correct. The ownership doesn't want to wait and put the properties on hold with LOIs. They want rent money, of course. And so that's what we've endured since 2021. And there
Yeah,
are literally people who have held on to properties since 2021. Um,
which
and
is
you know
wrong.
that
I mean, they're not
they were waiting for their day.
waiting for their day. People have opened up hemp shops, CBD hemp shops, legal operational hemp shops, because they wanted to be ready to go for as soon as this, non-provisional license came out. And so those people that are actually operating, I think of in Western New York, we have several people that are applying for licenses, that have applied for licenses, and they're on that list, but they're nowhere near the first 250. And those micro growers, let's be realistic. A micro grow is going to take 4 months. If they open the way technically they're supposed to, they don't have anything in the ground right now. They don't have anything planted right now that they can sell in theory. So all of a sudden, if a micro opens up after they get a license, isn't that a problem? Because technically, how can you be growing to scale and operating and now have products already ready to go if you're just being awarded a license right now? Just
It's magic, Nikki. Nothing
like
illegal
Puff
there.
goes the magic dragon.
Nothing illegal. It's magic.
Right, right, right.
And those
Just
seeds,
pop
where did
in.
those seeds come from? Immaculate conception. That's where the seeds came from. Because we don't currently have seed to sale tracking in New York, even though it's part of the law. But
Kind
that's,
of
so I'm
little
not
thing.
upset about this list because they're right in there. There's a process that should be being followed and it's not.
And I get it's a new agency. I get
It's no
that
longer
they're
new.
just that they're learning how to do things. But damn it, we have a lot of other states that have screwed things up. Can't we learn from them and do things better? I mean, I get it's brand new. I mean, but you're right. I mean, 2021 or 2024, there's been a lot
Yeah,
of
I mean,
time that's passed, but why aren't
we've
you
almost
looking
had
at
an entire Olympics. The Olympics is every 4 years. The presidential race is every 4 years. It didn't coincide with these dates. Let's see what else. How many rockets have we launched? How many rockets has Elon Musk launched? What else is different since 2021? We survived a global pandemic, right? We the economy went up and it went down and it went up and it went down. Credit rates, interest rates
interest
went
rates?
sky
Hmm.
high. Um, and it's so I just cannot ascribe to this idea of, oh, it's a new agency. And I am dealing with that on another issue with a farmer where we're needing some answers with regard to a license. And they meaning OCM keeps wanting to say, well, it's new and we haven't had to figure out this particular question. Well, dude, it's in the law and it's in other laws. And you've been working on this question since May, actually since March of 2023, and you still can't give us an answer and it's all in the law and you want to fall back on it's a new agency. Stop. If this
Well,
is overwhelming to you, go get another job because you know what? While this person is sitting on the sidelines and literally can't even buy groceries, um, because of
ran.
this question on the license, they literally cannot buy groceries, and yet you are drawing a state salary that's accumulating pension, vacation, and you have dental coverage? Gotta have dental coverage in New York. Look at the governor.
Why does she have good teeth?
Yeah, look at the governor's picture. Next time you see the governor, she'll show her teeth to you.
I have good teeth, but they're fake.
Yeah,
Um,
well, maybe hers are fake. I don't know, but
you never know. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of crazy things going on right now that just are really not clear. And, you know, I just, it's really frustrating for me as an advocate, as someone that cares about this industry, as someone that wants things done in a cohesive manner and things to flow. It's been real challenging to watch because so many people are suffering not only from the prohibition of cannabis, but they're trying to do things right and they're getting screwed. You know, they're getting literally screwed. In the last OCM meeting, I didn't watch it, but I heard some really negative stuff from it. Like they were almost rude and laughing and mocking questions that that's not cool, guys. Like these people have their lives on the line trying to play and color in the lines. And you literally, I mean, wasn't it, didn't we have this conversation that any law should be easy to understand?
mhm.
And
It's called the Fifth Amendment due process,
there you
that
go.
you've gotta be
Facts.
able to understand the law.
Yeah, right. Facts. And, you know, I don't know. It's very, very frustrating. And I mean, like the whole home grow situation, you know, everyone, the dispensaries, adult use dispensaries for the layman had to be operational for 18 months and then they were going to let home grow happen. Well, we're getting close technically to that 18-month period for regular people, non medical patients to be able to grow. When we look at Housing Works has been open since December of 2022, correct?
Yep.
And so we're over a year now. So those people, in theory, in 6 months, technically, should be able to start growing cannabis. And again, it's a limited amount, it's 6 plants with a max of 12 per household. But that's another whole thing. That's another whole topic that we're not even addressing right now. We're more concerned with, you know, the licensing and the people that are trying to do things right. And these are the people who I have the most empathy for right now because I feel that they're literally in limbo and they don't know if they want to continue to play this game or bow out. I believe it was you that said you had a card person that was on the list at a very low number, and they're probably going to go with the card route because they were approved for that too. But yet they're on this other list, so that's one less name on the list. So then that
Yeah.
list of 250, now we're at 251 at a minimum, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then we have, there's just so much question to it and it's just so complicated. And I just wish they had like a real community liaison that could speak in a very normal human way instead of legalese and legal speak to literally communicate with the community in a way that others understand because
Okay,
I don't
here's
feel
the
that freedom.
question. Here's the question. Would you rather deal with the DMV or with the OCM? I say give me the DMV any day.
The DMV
Because I
definitely
can
has pretty clear cut rules.
I can go and talk to a live person. I may not like what they say,
Right.
but I can talk to a live person. Their website, I can submit things online and get a response, you know?
That's a good
So,
analogy. I feel
and
that.
yet the DMV is not really known for customer service, right?
No, they are
OCM
not.
OCM gets 2 thumbs down for customer service. I cannot tell you how many times I have emailed with a question and I get sent back a link to licensing.
Frequently asked questions. They send you back the link of frequently asked questions.
Yeah, and it's like, really?
Really?
And finally one of my clients wrote to them and said, "Did you even read my message before you sent this link? Because the link you sent has nothing to do with my question. Nothing. You get a 0 for customer service. They need that
Well,
survey. Why don't they have those, like even when you go to the doctor, you get all these surveys, right?
I gotta say though, they did a pretty good job with the survey aspect for medical patients that came out a few months ago, and they wanted feedback from medical patients, and they wanted, like, they had a 500 character limit, or word limit, whatever it was, on each answer, and I literally went to 500. I omitted spaces to be able to get my point across, and I spoke with people at the education and the research department, and they are reading those responses, but I don't see any actions. I
They
don't
were
see
Walmart
any.
employees. Look what Marina said. They were Walmart employees. Actually, some of them came from very high levels of government.
Yes, and like health department employees came over to the OCM. But I also learned something interesting from that talk I had. I've pretty much applied for every job at the OCM, not because I want to work for them, but I believe that I can actually influence them. I believe for some reason I'm crazy enough to think I can change perception. But at the end of the day, I really want to either work for them or work for the New York medical cannabis industry. Why? Because I feel they need a voice of reality in that organization, a voice of reality that isn't a lawyer, a voice that isn't getting paid $150,000 a year, a voice that lives this as a medical patient, and that experience should count for something. But I learned that the Office of General Services screens all the applications, and if you literally don't check every single box of what that job description says, you will not get passed on to the OCM. So that's why my applications never make it past Office of General Services. And that's so frustrating because I don't care if I had a doctorate. My experience as a patient, as a consumer, holds much more weight than that doctorate ever would from a standpoint of reality and real world evidence and real world usage.
I would
Just
agree.
my 2 cents.
I mean, I learn so much from you every time I talk to you.
Well, then learn so
So,
much from you, you lawyerish human, you
geek.
lawyer ease
Okay, what's
communication
the
person.
score? What's the score? What's the score?
Anybody
Do
know
we
what the
know?
score is? Any score? Score update.
Let me
Uh,
see.
I'm looking.
We should sign off so you
27-24. Bills are
Oh, come
not in the
on,
lead, and we're in the fourth
Bills.
quarter. Come on, Bills. Let's go, Buffalo. The Western New York report won't be the same if we don't get into the next round to against the
Listen,
Ravens.
all
Damn it.
those people that came out to shovel the stadium, can you believe that? That was amazing.
What's
They
so
shoveled the
cool?
they
The
shoveled
score? Oh,
no, I think that was about OCM. Um, they came out to shovel the snow in the
oh
stadium.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Facts.
I guess the highlights for this upcoming week are going to be on the 24th. We've got a lot happening on the 24th, and then the 26th, and then it
Let's
should
reiterate
be
what's happening on the 24th. 24th, go to my profile and sign up for that webinar from MCR Labs because it is going to be educational. And we all need to learn what a COA is and why it's important to all of us, not just medical consumers, but all of us. The second thing that's happening is a major OCM meeting. Paula, do you have any idea what time that OCM meeting is?
I do not. I
I do
should know
not
that,
either.
but
Uh,
they are supposed to release some licenses at that meeting.
and there's many people that have been asked to get fingerprinted.
Me,
Um,
I got mine done
and
the other day.
nice, nice. Not like you haven't been fingerprinted 400 times before because you're a
Oh, I
lawyer.
know, but the state of New York uses a vendor that doesn't store them. Other states use a vendor that stores them, so you can just say, "Here's my
Here's my
personal info."
fingerprints from,
Yeah,
yeah.
because
Like I got fingerprinted when I worked at the casino. Like, are you saying
because
those fingerprints aren't good enough? I mean, they went through
they
the
aren't,
state, they went
they aren't,
through the freaking
they
state
aren't,
trooper shit.
they
No?
aren't, they are not. You've
Wow.
got to get them
That's
all over.
ridiculous.
And
Not
what
that
is
I
it
would
that we
ask
know
you.
about fingerprints? They don't change. So, like,
Right?
right? So what?
Right? Same ones. Whether you do
Yeah,
toes or fingers, they're gonna be the same ones.
yeah.
Unless someone kills you and files off your fingernail,
Listen,
your fingerprint.
I've been accused of being all mobbed up, so I guess I get it.
You little mobster. But yeah, so the 24th OCM meeting, make sure you tune in for that. And make sure you tune in at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our MCR webinar. And free, 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 but you gotta sign up. If you don't sign up, you don't get the link. So let's
Okay.
make sure we do that. And then definitely get your fill in for the OCM for the week. But then let's look forward to the 26th. Hopefully, that lawsuit and that hearing goes where they do not think about issuing an injunction, that we do not get any kind of temporary restraining order again, because that would just be a super duper, excuse the term, but I have to say it, shit show.
A fecal exhibition. That's what it
It
is.
would
A
not be
fecal
good.
exhibition.
It
Okay,
would
we're gonna
not
sign
be good.
off. Good
We're
night.
signing off,
So
guys. Go Bills. Hold your energy for my Bills. The WNY report is officially closed. Bye, friends.